Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome back into a new week of The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. You know what you need to do for me really quickly. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Subscribers, make sure your notifications are turned on for our YouTube page by hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when we drop all of our excellent content on our YouTube channel. Also, I want you guys to be more involved with the show. Leave your Alabama football recruiting question at our voicemail line at 205-984-3222. That number will be located on the screen throughout the duration of today's show, so be sure to call in, interact with us, leave that recruiting question. It could be answered on a future episode of The Process. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news, and on today's show I want to talk a little bit about a couple of 2023 prospects who have told me that they plan to officially visit the University of Alabama in the near future. A couple of these guys will officially visit during the month of June, which I feel could be a huge month on the recruiting trail for the Crimson Tide in this 2023 recruiting cycle. And some of these guys plan to officially visit the Crimson Tide during the season. I will talk about those guys here on this episode. I'll also talk about the Crimson Tide, the state of the Crimson Tide 2023 recruiting class, with them only having 3 commitments at the moment, which leads me to believe that June can be a big month for the Tide. But I also want to talk about a couple of guys with new offers from Alabama as well. And we're going to start today's show by talking about those prospects, including a 2025 running back out of Mater Dei High School in California in Jordan Davison. Like I said, Davison is a freshman at Mater Dei, currently standing at 6'2" and weighing 205 pounds. So he has a great size for a freshman, a guy who is going to be heading into his sophomore season for Mater Dei. He's going to, I feel, take a bigger role for them next season. He wasn't as involved as a freshman, but he did get a couple of looks, and he was able to display a couple of things about his game, including his balance, great speed, like I said, that great size as well, with him being 6'2" and 205 pounds. He's a very controlled runner, a patient runner. He was also able to make some catches out of the backfield, which is something you like to see out of any running back, especially a running back at such a young age. He actually got the offer from the Crimson Tide's wide receiver coach, Harmon Wiggins. Coach Wiggins called him as he pulled into his driveway, and he told me that he shed a couple of tears because he knows what that offer means, to get an offer from the Crimson Tide. He also said that he is familiar with former Alabama running back and fellow California native Najee Harris, and he said that he followed Najee very closely when he was in Tuscaloosa, and he said it was amazing to see what the Crimson Tide were able to do with Harris and turn him to a first round pick, one of the first running backs out of the draft when he was drafted out of Alabama. So Jordan Davison is a kid that has watched the Crimson Tide closely in the past, and he's excited to pick up that offer from the Crimson Tide. Another 2025 prospect who the Crimson Tide offered recently was Zayden Walker, and his older brother, who is a 2024 athlete, and Jalewis Solomon. I actually got an opportunity to talk to Jalewis a couple of days ago, and he told me that he was really excited to get an offer from the Crimson Tide as well. Told me that he loved the Alabama football program, just growing up watching it. Of course, he actually has a lengthy relationship with the Crimson Tide safeties coach, Charles Kelly. He said that he has been knowing Kelly ever since he was in the 7th grade, and he had an opportunity to meet up with Kelly again when Kelly came out to his school recently, and he said that Kelly wanted to see him and his brother because he hasn't seen both of them in a couple of years. Got an opportunity to watch both of them practice, and he extended those offers to Zayden Walker and also his older brother Jalewis Solomon, who we are talking about here. And take a look at Solomon. He's a prospect who could play on either side of the football at the next level, but I really like him at wide receiver at the moment. The Crimson Tide really like his explosiveness off of the football. He's a guy who can make some plays after the catch, but like I said, he's an athletic kid, could be used on either side of the football at the next level. It will be interesting to see how he continues to grow and continues to progress. But he told me one thing for sure is that he loves everything about the Alabama program, including the nutrition, the way that the Crimson Tide discipline their players, his love for Nick Saban. He talked a lot about that in my interview with them. You guys can check out that story over at touchdownalabama.com. But now we're going to transition into the 2023 prospects, which are the prospects I know a lot of Alabama fans want to talk about on today's show. And the first prospect I want to talk about is Hunter Osborne out of here at Trussville High School in Trussville, Alabama. He's a 4-star defensive lineman in the 2023 recruiting class. Actually released a top 6 and included the Tide, which was expected. The Crimson Tide have been recruiting Hunter Osborne a lot, heavily ever since they offered him. They have been in contact even before then. When I visited him in August before the 2021 football season, he said he was in contact with the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach. That contact eventually led to an offer for Osborne, but he released that top 6 and included the Auburn Tigers, the Texas Longhorns, the LSU Tigers, the Clemson Tigers, and the Tennessee Vols. His recruitment is continuing to flourish. More offers are continuing to come in as he continues to rise as a 2023 prospect, a long, lengthy defensive lineman. I really like the way that he's able to play in space. I think he will be more of an inline defensive end at the next level, but he has the potential to be possibly an outside linebacker or edge rusher at the next level. But taking a look at his frame, I think he will fit into the mold of an inline defensive end, continue to add on some more weight and more mass to his frame with that top 6. I plan to be at his game actually on Thursday here at Trussville Spring Game as they take on Parker High School. I have an opportunity to evaluate Hunter Osborne again. I saw him in action a couple of times during the football season and before the season. I will get an opportunity to see him again on Thursday and hopefully get an update on his recruitment in terms of possibly some official visits. Like I say all the time, when you're talking about guys who have those top 6, top 5, top 4s, top 3s, they usually want to announce a commitment before their senior season. We will see what Hunter Osborne wants to do when we get an opportunity to catch up with the Hero Truster product here in a couple of days. An in-state recruit who I did get an opportunity to catch up with recently was Kelby Collins, who did release a top 5. He has a top 5. He has the Tide in that top 5 along with programs like Georgia. You have South Carolina. You also have Oklahoma. Had opportunity to talk with Collins about a lot of those programs in his top 5, including the Crimson Tide. He said he was in heavy contact with them. They talk with him a lot, a couple of times a week. Also talk to his parents a lot, so they are in heavy contact with Kelby Collins in his family, but they are not the only program pushing hard for Collins at the moment. Georgia is very involved. A team that is a sleeper in his recruitment, in my opinion, is South Carolina. You could put Oklahoma in that discussion as well, because I feel that Oklahoma and their new head coach, Brent Venables, are basically piggybacking off of their success at Clemson and the relationships they were able to build at Clemson, and they're using that at Oklahoma. And Clemson has recruited the state of Alabama really well over the last couple of years, so I expect Oklahoma to have more of a presence inside the state over the next couple of recruiting classes, with players like Kelby Collins and Peter Woods, including them in their top school list recently. But Collins actually wants to take an official visit to Alabama after the football, well, technically still during the football season, but after the regular season, most likely after the SEC championship, which is most likely in December. So he's going to try to take that official visit then. He said a commitment from him could come at any time. He does not have a commitment time frame, has a couple of official visits set up. He'll actually take his first one to South Carolina on the 10th. Like I said, he will not officially visit Alabama during the summer, but he does plan to come to Tuscaloosa a couple of times to watch his teammates camp, and most likely Crimson Tide would want him to camp just to see him again. But I think they feel really good about Collins in terms of what he can do and what he brings to the table at the moment. So that is the update I want to provide about Kelby Collins. Like I said at the top of the show, I do want to talk about a couple of guys who have locked in official visits to Alabama. Like I said, some of those guys have locked in those official visits for the summer months like June, but a couple of these guys have locked in official visits for the football season. And one of those guys is 4-star offensive lineman Miles McVay, who will actually be on the campus of the University of Alabama for his official visit on the weekend of October 8th when the Crimson Tide hosts the Texas A&M Aggies. I I always think it is a great thing when recruits take official visits during the football season, because you get an opportunity to get treated like a celebrity, treated like a superstar on your official visit, but you also get an opportunity to watch a high-profile football game. And with the Texas A&M Aggies defeating the Crimson Tide on last season, I'm pretty sure the Tide want their revenge on the Aggies, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of storylines circulating that game. That game could be in a really exciting matchup this upcoming football season. So I think that is really smart by Miles McVay to take his official visit to Tuscaloosa during the month of October for that particular matchup. When you take a look at Miles McVay, the last time I talked with him, he rated his relationship with Alabama a 9 out of 10. They have been very involved in this recruitment. They have actually gotten out to his high school in Chicago, Illinois, at East St. Louis High School. Had an opportunity to travel there a couple of times during these evaluation periods, and had an opportunity to check on him and some other prospects across this 2023 recruiting landscape, which is really interesting to me, which is why I'm going to just cut away a little bit and talk a little bit about the Crimson Tide's 2023 recruiting efforts and why I feel the Crimson Tide could have a huge month on the recruiting trail next month. Their coaches are continuing to evaluate guys, and I think they're taking full advantage of getting an opportunity to get back on the road compared to the last couple of recruiting cycles. Because of that 15-month recruiting dead period, they did not get an opportunity to see these guys in action during the spring, and I feel Alabama's coaching staff is taking full advantage of this opportunity. I've ran into a couple of them during my stops during these couple of these spring practices, and they have cameras in their hands, they have phones in their hands, basically videoing everything, getting the opportunity to evaluate guys in different recruiting classes. I had a guy who recently got an offer from the Crimson Tide told me that the Crimson Tide's running back coach, Robert Gillespie, just watched him the whole practice and filmed him the whole practice, and I'm pretty sure that film went to the Crimson Tide's entire coaching staff, and they decided if they wanted to offer that particular kid. So the Crimson Tide's coaching staff is on the recruiting trail really hard right now, evaluating guys. Pretty sure some more of those evaluations will continue to happen throughout the spring, as well as during the summer when the Crimson Tide get these guys on campus for those unofficial and official visits as well. Something else to pay attention to, and that's one of the reasons why I feel the Crimson Tide will be a bit more comfortable with a couple of guys when they get an opportunity to continue to see them during the spring. Also see them again, most likely in a camp setting, to possibly get some commitments from those guys. So that is something to keep in the back of your minds in terms of Alabama only having 3 commitments at the moment in the 2023 recruiting class. But getting back to what the show is focused on today, basically the 2023 recruits who have recently told me that they do plan to officially visit the University of Alabama in the near future. Another guy who told me is Cole Adams. He's a 4-star wide receiver out of Owasso High School in Owasso, Oklahoma. He's one of those guys who will officially visit the Crimson Tide during the month of June. The first weekend in June, the Crimson Tide will have an opportunity to host one of the most explosive wide receiver prospects in the 2023 recruiting class. The guy who stands at approximately 5'10", weighs 190 pounds or so. He's one of those guys who most likely play in the slot at the next level, can be a weapon in the kick return and punt return game, has proven speed, actually has a PR of 10.65 in the 100-meter dash. He's a decent route runner. The Crimson Tide really seemed to like him after they hosted him for the first time since he picked up an offer from the Tide. He told me that he had built a crazy relationship with their coaching staff, with Holman Wiggins and other members of Alabama staff as well. Wiggins has traveled to Oklahoma to check on Adams, so he's a prospect to definitely know heading into his official visit with the Crimson Tide. A guy who I feel the Crimson Tide could put themselves in a good position with if he has a wonderful official visit during the month of June. Makari Vickers, a 4-star defensive back out of St. John Paul II Catholic High School in Tallahassee, Florida, is another prospect who will officially visit the Crimson Tide in June. Vickers has visited the Crimson Tide most likely more than any other program in its recruitment outside of Florida State. Like I said, he is a Tallahassee product, so I'm pretty sure he probably visited Florida State a little bit more than he visited Alabama, but he has visited the Crimson Tide a lot over the last couple of months. They really seem to be interested in the 4-star defensive back, one of the more complete defensive backs in this 2023 recruiting class. Could be a cornerback, could be a safety at the next level. I think he will be a really good safety, but it all depends on how the Crimson Tide use him. I'm pretty sure they're going to leave the door open for him to play either position based on necessity at the next level if he chooses to commit and sign with the Crimson Tide in the future. His last conversation with Nick Saban during a visit actually surrounded the Crimson Tide's future depth chart. So he's talking with Vickers about, hey, at the safety position, it's not going to be as deep as it is this year when you come in a couple of seasons here. If you came in, this is how the depth chart will look. You have more of an opportunity to earn some playing time. So the Crimson Tide are basically mapping out the future for Makari Vickers in Tuscaloosa. Like I said, he will take that official visit in June. We'll see how things stand with the Crimson Tide. I feel they are the favorite in his recruitment at the moment, but we will see how it plays out as his recruitment goes on, as things continue to move forward. He is expected to release a top school list over the next couple of weeks, so that is something else to pay attention to when it comes to Makari Vickers recruitment. But like I've continued to say on this episode, the process, the Crimson Tide could have a big month on the recruiting trail next month, and a huge reason why I feel that way is the fact that they will have a lot of top tier prospects on campus for official visits. We're going to bring up a graphic here that basically lists the guys who I have confirmed will be in Tuscaloosa for official visits in June. Like I said, these are guys who have told me or basically announced on Twitter that they will officially visit Alabama. They will officially visit Alabama during the month of June. A couple of guys who I've talked about today. We can take a look at Makari Vickers and Cole Adams. You also have 5-star running back Justice Haynes, 5-star defensive back Caleb Downs, 2 prospects out of Georgia who will officially visit the Crimson Tide on the same weekend. In June, you also have 5-star wide receiver Brandon Ennis. Just taking a look at this list, the Tide will be very busy on the recruiting trail during the month of June, getting some of these guys on campus. And this list will continue to grow as we continue to get confirmation, as guys continue to schedule official visits, make that official visit list possible and basically public as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us today on this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button before you leave. Hit that subscribe button as well if you're not a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Also, get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. Then head to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. With that app, breaking news notifications can be sent to your mobile device. If you have an Apple device, be sure to go to the Apple App Store to download the Touchdown Alabama app as well. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.